So welcome back to the workshop and the third update on the two mandolins that I'm currently working on. So let me show you what I've been up to. So I'm just in the middle of working on the bindings for both of the mandolins. So I just really wanted to show you a couple of key features. So I'm just at the stage where I've glued the last piece of binding around this top edge of the electric mandolin, and you can see that I use this cloth tape to hold the binding in place whilst the glue's drying, setting, and you pull that cloth tape around to get a lot of tension into it so it holds the piece of binding very, very firmly in place. Personally, I think it's better than just using masking tape all the way around, and it's a method I've always used, and really, to be honest, always get good results. So what I wanted to show you on the standard mandolin was the rebate that goes around the top and the back edges to take the bindings, and really emphasise how critical the linings inside the instrument actually are, because it's those which hold everything together. As you can see, the sides are only glued to the linings and the end blocks, as are the back and the top. So it's really critical that you take care and you get those linings absolutely spot on. And then of course it's also critical, I feel, that you have bindings. I mean, there is a bit of a trend on some instruments, some makers, to leave bindings off, but that binding really does protect this potentially fragile edge from damage. It's not just purely a decorative feature. So I've just completed the bindings and the purflings on both of the mandolins. The standard one has got some black, white, black purfling around the outside, and it's bound with the maple, and the back is just simply bound in maple. And really, binding and doing the purfling on something like one of these mandolins with this kind of traditional pear shape is really quite straightforward, because all of the curves are quite gentle. However, the chambered bodied mandolin is really a different kettle of fish. As you can see, I've got this red purfling around the inside here, and again bound in maple, and the back we've got a red veneer line going all the way around, and again bound in maple. And of course that red line picks up the red line that goes around the control panel. This, as I say, isn't as straightforward to bind and do the purfling on. These bends here are just about on the extreme of what I can actually physically do with a piece of wood. I could not bend a curve any more than that. So that takes a lot of time to carefully bend the maple without it obviously breaking, and making sure that it fits the curve of the body. And also things like the miters, where the purflings meet at the points, that takes an inordinate amount of time, as did the veneer line going around the outside, so that it's continuous and you haven't got any unsightly joins. But anyway, with the purfling and the binding done, the next step is to fit the neck. I've just been fitting the neck to the body, and as you can see, it's really a very snug fit. In fact, it's so snug that these days I can't use wood glue. What happens is that if you use something like Tight Bond, the moisture in the glue causes the wood to swell up, and invariably you get about halfway in and the whole thing locks up, and you really don't want to start bashing it with a hammer or clamping it. So I use an epoxy resin. That doesn't affect the wood in the same way, and it almost acts as a lubricant and helps it slide in. So as you can see, I use this really quite hefty mortise and tenon join, and in fact I think that tenon is probably wider than the tenons on my workbench, the tenons that hold the legs onto the workbench. But yeah, so that will be glued in a moment. And yes, and as they say on all of these good TV shows, here's one I prepared earlier. So apart from the tenon holding the neck in place, I also put in 4 dowels. So I drill a hole, half in the neck, half in the body. That goes down about 15 millimeters deep, so not the full depth of the neck, and these 4 dowels are glued in place. And what that does is it stops the neck from ever being able to lift up, because those dowels are holding down that neck. They only go in, say, about that far. So one half of the dowel is glued to the neck, the other half is glued to the body, and that bottom of the hole that's in the tenon obviously can't move up. So that neck is really super secure for all time. So you can see that the neck has now been glued onto the standard. The main difference between the 2 neck joints is that with the standard I have to put a wedge here which supports the end of the fretboard to give it the angle that I need to get the correct height at the bridge. I don't need to do that on the chambered body because of the way the top is actually carved and shaped. So with both of the necks now glued on, I'm just cutting the fret slots in the fretboards using my slightly modified StewMac jig and a template which I had actually custom made, CNC custom made, with a 360mm scale length. So the fretboard is now ready to be glued on. You can see along this edge here I've put the position markers in, and on the front surface here I've drilled pilot holes for where the dot markers will go. But those pilot holes also serve as a way of aligning the fretboard up perfectly. The wooden pegs go into the body and through come through the holes, and that ensures this perfect alignment along the length of the instrument. So yes, that's what I'm going to do now, glue that fretboard on. And there we have it, that fretboard is now been glued on to the chambered bodied mandolin. So as always, many thanks for taking the time to watch the video. Hope you found it of interest, and yeah, we'll see you in the next one. So until then, you take care. Cheers.